everybody, back again. Hope y'all are having a wonderful Friday here on February 14th. Really, I just hope anybody who's seen or is going to see these videos that you're doing well, and if you're not, that you can find some grace and some peace in the Lord here today with me. And so today I'll be reading the second book of Samuel. Chapters 3 and 4 just started, finished up the first book of Samuel in my first few videos. Again, I'm reading from the start to finish. So obviously I haven't recorded all of my entries, though I have made some for most of the first few books in the Bible. I believe starting all the way from Numbers through now, I have notes on every single chapter so far, and that's just kind of what I want to do. So that way I always have, because I'm going to go back and I'm going to read it again. I'm going to read it from start to finish, and no matter how long it takes, I'm trying to take my time to really take in everything I need to learn and to really hone that knowledge rather than rushing through it, but also really build that relationship with the Lord and understand things better. And it's been a really helpful thing for me. I also just want to have a journal of every chapter when I'm ordering, something I can share with everybody I come across, but also my family and my kids one day. So here on this day again, and this will be similar to the last video, I'm feeling calm. That's a common feeling I have now, not so common before, but something I've definitely been able to take a bigger hold of now. And really, I just feel so thankful for the Lord to be able to instill such calmness and peace that I wasn't able to feel so well before. And now I am. And before, I wasn't able to feel it because I wasn't really taking the time to get to know the Lord. I looked after to other things to maybe kind of fix the way I was feeling, but everything else is just like that. It's temporary, and that's all it could be. But the Lord, He is forever, and He is eternal. And His ways and what He can give us is absolutely eternal. And so what I'm grateful for today, as I always am, is our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ, a Lord who provides clear directions and everlasting peace and serenity given through the Lord. My biggest goal I'm working towards is to be more disciplined, whether that be with my schoolwork, whether that be Bible study, whatever it is. I wish to show more discipline in everything that I do. And so my priorities for today are to work hard, do not be lazy, bring glory and praise to the Lord, and upload 2 videos, and look for other ways to spread the word, because making these videos is one thing, but also it's important that we do it when we're out in public, whether we're at work or at school or, we're getting food, whatever it is. We can look to spread the word to somebody who may need it, because you never know when you're stumbling upon this place at that specific time that the Lord lined that up so that you could say something to somebody who really needs it, And so with that being said, I'm going to get right into chapter 3 and 4 here. I chose 2 verses one from each chapter today. We've seen both formats, we've seen both layouts. Sometimes it's 4 or 5 lessons from one chapter, sometimes it's a verse and a lesson from that. And so I'm going to go through the chapters. These chapters are a little shorter than yesterday. Maybe the video will be a little shorter. Sometimes, I'm not trying to make a video so long, but really, I guess there's no direct timing on this. However long it takes to get through this is really however long it takes to get through it. So starting out here on chapter 3. Now there was a long war between the house of Saul and the house of David. But David waxed stronger and stronger, and the house of Saul waxed weaker and weaker. And again, very short reasoning for this, and as has been discussed before, is his appointment in the house of David is of God's will, while this house of Saul is kind of for self-gain, and it's a political rule rather than a rule dictated by God's will, which is ultimately always will be stronger. All strength comes from the Lord. True strength comes from the Lord. So continue on verse 2 here. And unto David were sons born in Hebron, and his first was of Amnon of Anahom the Jezreelites, and his second Chileab of Abigail the wife of Nabal the Carmelite, and the third Absalom the son of Maacah, the daughter of Talmai, king of Geshur, and the fourth, Adon-Ahai, the son of Haggith, and the fifth, Shephatiah, the son of Abitah, and the sixth, Ithream, by Eglah, David's wife. And these were born to David in Hebron. And it came to pass, while there was a war between the house of Saul and the house of David, that Abner made himself strong for the house of Saul. And Saul had a concubine whose name was Rizpah, the daughter of Ai. And Ishabeth said to Abner, Wherefore hast thou gone unto my father's concubine? Then was Abner very wroth for the words of Ishbosheth, and said, Am I a dog's head, which against Judah do show kindness this day unto the house of Saul thy father, so his brethren and his friends, and have not delivered thee into the hand of David, that thou chargest me this day with false concerning this woman? So God to Abner, and more also, except as the Lord hath sworn to David, even so I do to him, to translate the kingdom from the house of Saul, and over to set up the throne of David over Israel and over Judah, from Dan even to Beersheba. And he could not answer Abner a word again, because he feared him. And so this is basically Saul coming to Abner, accusing him of something that he's done, and Abner's kind of upset with this notion, because Abner's like, I've showed you great loyalty. I haven't gone over to David, and I haven't betrayed you, and I haven't done anything wicked upon you. Yet you accuse me of these things. So he's basically saying, I'm, the rightful ruler and of God's will is going to be David, and I will go over to him, because it just really, I think it really just got to him. You imagine just being so loyal to somebody for so long, and you haven't done anything to them besides amplify them, and then they tell you, they accuse you of something falsely that you haven't done. It's a little upsetting. You give so much time and so much to somebody, and that's not to say that we become like wroth with anger and you can't let it go, but it's to say, like, maybe you take a step back and you just look at where you're at, and maybe that's not the place you're supposed to be. And for Abner right now, he's feeling that, maybe my time's best spent serving David, God's will, ruler of the king. So let's continue on verse 11 here. And he could not answer Abner a word again, because he feared him. And Abner sent messages to David on his behalf, saying, Who is the land? Saying also, Make thy league with me, and behold, my hand shall be with thee to bring out all of Israel unto thee. And he said, Well, I will make a league with thee, but one thing I require of thee, that is, thou shalt not see my face, except thou first bring Michal, Saul's daughter, when thou comest to see my face. And David sent messengers to Ishbosheth, Saul's son, saying, Deliver me my wife Michal, which I espoused to me for 100 foreskins of the Philistines. And Ishbosheth sent and took her from her husband, even from Phaltiel, the son of Laish. And her husband went with her along, weeping behind her, to Bahurim. Then said Abner unto him, Go return, and he returned. And Abner had communication with elders of Israel, saying, Ye sought for David in times past to be king over you. Now then do it, for the Lord hath spoken of David, saying, By the hand of my servant David I will save my people out of the hand of the Philistines, and out of the hand of all their enemies. And Abner spake into the ears of Benjamin, and Abner went also to speak in the ears of David in Hebron, all that seemed good to Israel, and that seemed good to the whole house of Benjamin. So Abner came to David to Hebron, and 20 men with him, and David made Abner with the men that were with him a feast. And so this is Abner coming along to David, basically saying, David's God's appointed. He is God's will. He is going to be the next leader, which is something that we've seen through the past, multiple chapters here, is that people know that David's the rightful ruler because he's of God's will. He's a man of God, and he's going to be a ruler who leads according to God's will. And as he says here, right here, basically just saying, like, it's do what's good for Israel. David and Hebron, all that seemed good to Israel. And so basically he's saying, I'm going to take this elsewhere. I'm going to make this promise and this vow to David. See it be good, for it is it's what the Lord wants, really. And so continuing here, and Abner said unto David, I will arise and go, and will gather all Israel unto my lord the king, that they may take a league with thee, and that thou mayest reign all over thine heart desireth. And David sent Abner away, and he went in peace. Behold, the servants of David and Joab came from pursuing a troop and brought in a great spoil with them. But Abner was not with David in Hebron, for he had sent him away and has gone in peace. When Joab and all the host that was with him were come, they told Joab, saying, Abner the son of Ner came to the king, and he has sent them away, and he is gone in peace. When Joab came to the king and said, What hast thou done? Behold, Abner came unto thee. Why is it that thou hast sent him away, and he is quite gone? Thou knowest Abner the son of Ner, that he came to deceive thee, and to know thy going out and thy coming in, and to know all that thou doest. And Joab was come out from David. He sent messengers after Abner, which brought him again from at the well of Sirah, but David knew it not. And when Abner was returned to Hebron, Joab took him aside in the gate, speak with him quietly, and smote him there under the fifth rib, that he died for the blood of Asahel, his brother. And so what we see happening here is we have Joab, Asahel's brother, if you remember from the chapter before, who was wrought with anger. Here you have very a reoccurring thing where now we have we have Joab, who's wrought with anger with Abner, and after Abner is making this peace with David, to see David be the rightful ruler over Israel, to bring good upon all the land, and he goes away, and Joab comes back from pursuing another troop, and Joab's kind of fired up right away. He's angry. He's still angry of the death of his brother Asahel, and he's filled with this rage. Instead of using self-control, he uses this to enact his own judgment. He uses this to enact self-revenge, and that's not something we should be called to do. And so I will speak upon that in a little bit towards the end of the chapter when I kind of do my overview, but that's just something to keep in the back of our heads now. It's the same thing as last chapter, where it's just like self-control is a must, because if you let anger and revenge control you, it will be your downfall. And afterward, when David heard it, he said, I and my kingdom are guiltless before the Lord forever from the blood of the Abner the son of Ner. Let it rest on the head of Joab and all his father's house, and let there not fail from his house of Joab that hath an issue, or that is a leper, or that leaneth on his staff, or that falleth on the sword, or that lacketh bread. So Joab and Abishai his brother slew Abner, because he had slain their brother Asahel Gibeon in battle. And David said to Joab and to all the people that were with him, Rend your clothes and gird your sackcloth, and mourn before Abner. And King David himself followed the bier. And they buried Abner in Hebron, and the king lifted up his voice and wept all the grave of Abner, and all the people wept. And the king lamented over Abner and said, Died Abner as a fool dieth? Thy hands were not bound, nor thy feet put in fetters. As the man falleth before wicked men, so fellest thou. And all the people wept again over him. And when all the people came to cause David to eat meat while it was yet day, David sware, saying, So God do to me, and more also, if I taste bread or aught else till the sun be down. And all the people took no justice of it, and pleased them, as whatsoever the king did pleased all the people. For all the people and all Israel understood that day it was not the king to slay Abner and the son of Ner. And the king said unto his servants, Know ye not that there is a prince and a great man fallen this day in Israel? And I am this day weak, though anointed king, and these men, the sons of Zeruiah, be too hard for me. The Lord shall reward the doer of evil according to his wickedness. And that's actually the verse I chose, but I will go ahead and actually talk about this real quick. And so this news comes back to David. He claims that this is not the actions of him or his kingdom. This is the actions of Joab and his brother and their house. And that the judgment not fall upon him for this. He knew nothing about it. And he shows here, like, he's not going to eat till the sun goes down. Really just showing his pure, this hurts him. It hurts his heart. This is not what he wanted. He feels sadness upon Abner. As he says, a great man fallen this day in Israel, and then the kingdom can see that he has this guilt. The kingdom can kind of see, like, this is not what he wanted. The kingdom can see his remorse towards this, and they kind of like what they're seeing. They can tell just based upon his actions, this isn't something David wanted, and this isn't something David did. And so I chose the verse, Am I this day weak, though anointed king, and these men, the sons of Zeruiah, be too hard for me? The Lord shall reward the doer of evil according to his wickedness. And we can again see that David pushes judgment off to the Lord, as it should be. We have no right to be judges, as we are no better than a person who stands beside us. What what too should be seen as the dangers of holding grudges in our own heart instead of allowing forgiveness. Revenge does not do anything for you. And again, it's a common theme from the video prior, but really, it's revenge does us no good. Revenge fills our hearts with anger and the thoughts of revenge, rather than filling ourselves with the love that the Lord deserves. And when you do so, it almost separates yourself further from the Lord, because you're worried about this revenge and this anger rather than bringing ourselves closer to the Lord. Again, sorry for that interruption, guys. I'm just going to continue kind of where I left off. Whereas, we can't really hold that sense of revenge, and we can't hold that sense of those grudges or that sense of anger in our heart, because that fills our heart. Whereas all the room in our heart should go to the Lord. And when you allow this sense of vengeance and this anger to overcome you, then where does all that love and that joy and rejoicing in the Lord, where does that go? No, you're overcome by this sense of anger. So it's dangerous, and we have to let go of those things, and we have to practice forgiveness, for the Lord forgives us. And He can't forgive us unless we first know how to forgive, because He can forgive us for all of our sins and everything we've done wrong and from leading our lives, but we must first just forgive everyone else, and then again, it's just this reoccurring theme, just as in the last video, is the Lord is the judge. He is a perfect judge, and He is a fair judge. There is no one that could give better judgment than the Lord. He knows us better than anybody. He is more fair and more graceful and more loving than anyone else. And so that was chapter 3 here, and we'll get into chapter 4, which is definitely shorter here. And so starting off in verse 1, and when Saul's son heard that Abner was dead in Hebron, his hands were feeble, and all Israelites were troubled. And Saul's son had 2 men that were captains of bands. The name of one was Benah, and the name of the other was Rechab, the sons of Rimmon at Beerothite of the children of Benjamin. For Beeroth also was reckoned of Benjamin. And Beerothites fled to Gittaim, and were sojourners there until this day. And Jonathan, Saul's son, and his son that was lame of his feet, he was 5 years old when the tidings came of Saul. And Jonathan out of Jezreel, and his nurse took him up and fled. And it came to pass, as she made haste to flee, that he fell and became lame. And his name was Mephibosheth. And the sons of Rimmon and the Beerothite, Rechab and Benah, went and came about the heat of the day to the house of Ishabeth, who lay on a bed at noon. When they came thither into the midst of the house, as though they would have fetched wheat, they smote him under his 5th rib, and Rechab and Benah his brother escaped. For when they came unto the house, he lay on his bed in his bedchamber, and they smote him and slew him and beheaded him, and took his head and gat them away through the plain all night. And they brought the head of Ishabeth unto David to Hebron, and said to the king, Behold, the head of Ishabeth, the son of Saul thine enemy, which sought my life, and the Lord hath avenged my lord the king this day of Saul and of his seed. And David answered Rechab and Benah his brother, the sons of Rimmon the Beerothite, and said unto them, As the Lord liveth, who hath redeemed my soul out of all adversity. Gosh, struggling right now. When one told me, saying, Behold, Saul is dead, thinking to have brought good tidings, I took hold of him and slew him in Ziklag, who thought that I would give him a reward for his tidings. And this is kind of a flashback to before, when that Amalekite came to him saying, I slew Saul, I bring you his crown and his bracelet. And he thought he would gain good tidings, and but really that's, it's not a good thing. And it's not something that David's going to reward somebody for, even though, and they're misconstrued to think that he would. And so that's basically what happened. These 2 men under Saul, they came into his house while he rested in his bed, and they slew him. They took his head, they brought it to David, thinking, this is a big honor to you. I know this has been an obstacle to you, David. So we killed him, and we brought him the head, and they thought they were going to get this self-gain from it, which again is going to lead to their own destruction. And so verse 11, how much more when wicked men have slain a righteous person in his own house before in his bed, shall I not therefore now require his blood of your hand, and take away you away from the earth? And David commanded his young men, and they slew him, and cut off their hands and their feet, and hanged them up over the pool in Hebron. But they took the head of Ishabeth and buried it in the sepulchre of Abner and Hebron. And so they basically they took the head, they buried it properly, as to give a proper judgment, because what was done to him was of disrespect and not deserving of anybody. And they thought they would gain this reward by bringing this to David. They did not, and that's kind of the verse I chose. So how much more, when wicked men have slain a righteous person in his own house upon his bed, should I not therefore require his blood of your hand and take you away from the earth? And so I took a couple lessons from this in vigilantism and personal revenge are not acceptable. Leave judgment in God's hands. Again, allow judgment to be in the Lord's hands. It's more of a blessing to allow the Lord to be the judge. We do not have the right to judge. We do not know any person or see inside their heart the way that the Lord can. And we can't judge as fairly or with as much grace and love and compassion as the Lord can. The Lord is understanding more than I and more than any of us, because He is all-knowing. And therefore, just leave the judgment to Him. It is much easier that way. It's much better that way. It's a lot of responsibility to go ahead and just decide to take up judgment upon anything, but it's just much better for the Lord to do so. And even though Ishbosheth's death may have removed an obstacle from David's path, his response shows adherence to ethical and divine standards. And so again, even though Ishbosheth might be an obstacle for David to become the ruler and the king over Israel, his response just shows that he has ethical and divine standards. He has standards of God. He has God's will at heart, and he knows that this wasn't a part of God's plan or timing. And so that's just kind of, again, fortifying the fact that, David is very ethical, and he is true to God, and he is led by God, and that's what we're called to do. We should be ethical in all ways, and we should, call ourselves to God's standard. Again, sorry for the interruption here. Hopefully it'll be the last one, but just kind of enforcing the fact that, again, we're called to uphold God's standard, and that we may not do perfectly, because we're not perfect. That is what we're called to do, and we should be ethical in the ways that we react and we respond to all the things that are, occur around us. And that just emphasizes again the next lesson, which is God's law should govern all matters of justice. God is the judge. God's law should be what, adheres to what justice should be. True justice comes from the Lord, and I promise you that we don't have to act in judgment. The Lord will do everything right. The Lord is good, and the Lord is perfectly good, and every way He handles a matter will be more than perfect. And so, again, the next lesson here is using wrongful means for an intended end can compromise one's character and integrity. And that's these two men here who went and slew Saul in his bedroom. This was a wrongful mean for an intended end. Eventually, a part of God's plan, Ishbosheth wasn't going to be king, and David would be king. And that, this was wrongful means for what was intended eventually. And this was very rushed, and it kind of, it rushes God's plan, whereas God's plan and His timing is perfect as is. And so this compromised their character and integrity and allowed them to be filled with wickedness rather than, grace and peace of the Lord. And kind of just, it's a dangerous thing. It can very easily separate ourselves from the Lord if we allow ourselves to be filled with these wicked thoughts and corruption and judgment and anger. And we just want to do our best to do anything and keep ourselves away from doing anything that separates ourselves from the Lord rather than bringing ourselves closer to the Lord. And I know this video has been kind of chopped up. There's been some cuts, and I've stumbled on some words, but I hope that something's been able to gain from it, and something of what I've said has been some understanding. I think I get on here and I have so much to say, and then I kind of get jumbled up in what I'm saying. So I'm going to just lead us into our prayer here for the day. And Lord, thank you for your forgiveness. Lord, I praise you for taking judgment and justice into your hand, Lord, that the Lord is the judge, that, Lord, your judge and your justice is perfect and fair. Lord, I thank you for showing me ethical and divine standards in which I will adhere to forever. Lord, thank you for showing us to forgive as we do not have to hold grudges or anger in our hearts, and instead fill it with your love. And I just want to pray, Lord, that anybody who's hearing this video today, if they're having trouble forgiving somebody, if their heart's filled with anger, if their heart's filled with, wanting to gain revenge, that you just remove this from them, this wickedness, this corruption, that plagues them, and just allow them and show them how to forgive, Lord, as you have forgiven all of us. And in doing so, you bring them closer to you, Lord, and they walk this path with you upon your divine plan and your plan, which is perfect in time and place. So, Lord, we love you and we praise you, and we pray these things in Jesus' name. Amen. Yeah, I guess I say a lot, but I'm just happy to be here. I'm happy to share this message with y'all. And again, I just hope that y'all have been able to take something from this. I'm going to try to do best to be better every single time and learn from everything that I've done in these videos. And I'm just so happy to be able to be in good health and good mind to be able to do so and share these things with y'all. So that being said, I hope y'all have an amazing rest of your Friday, and continue to have amazing days every day we are on this world. And I hope to see all of your faces one day when we rejoice up in heaven with the Lord. And blessed be y'all, and blessed be your days.